Thank you for tuning in. My name is Tiffany with theholistic.epiphany.com. Today we're going to talk a little bit about womb work from my own personal experience. I'm going to begin at my beginning. My first experience with my womb, I actually thought womb meant wound, and that babies came from a wound. And the first time I actually heard about my period, I thought it was an experience that you only went through once, and the moment you got it was the moment you were done with it. So I had always wanted my period to come and I would be, free from it forever, washing my hands clean. Obviously, I soon realized that that was not how it would happen. I got my period around 13 or 14, so around 8th grade, freshman year, and for a couple days I thought I was pooping my pants, or like when I pooped I wasn't wiping right because it was just like this brown residue, and there wasn't enough education on it. I don't remember any classes about it, and at the time I was living with my dad and my stepmom. She'd been raising me since I was 2, but there wasn't a lot of personal connection or education on the subject. So about like day 2 of me thinking that I was wiping improperly, I went up to my mom, I knocked on her door, she opened it, she was like really like passive aggressive always, and I was like, I think I started my period, and she asked me how I knew, and I told her I feel like I'm wiping. I thought I was pooping my pants, but now I think it's my period. It's kind of like brown red. I don't really know. Can you come check? And she didn't check, but she did bring me some pads, and so that was kind of my initial experience with my period. I also felt really uncomfortable using pads. It made me feel like I was wearing a diaper and that I was a child and a baby. So throughout my teenage years, I would sneak around tampons because I felt more hygienic that way versus bleeding all over and walking around with like that crunch, or like sitting down and sitting in like stale blood. It was not a good time for me. So that experience every month was one of uncomfortability and kind of shame, because I would have to sneak around and there wasn't any comfort or education about it, so I felt like very left in the dark. There was also this experience. I have 2 other sisters who are about my age. They lived with their mom at that time, and their mom let them use tampons. My parents were really strong about it because of the insertion, and they were just very protective, and so when they would come visit, they would bring tampons, and my stepmom would be like, no, you absolutely not, you can't use them. And this one time when I was like 16 and my little sister was 15, she came, and the only thing that we had in our house were pads, so we went next door to our neighbor and we asked her for tampons, and the neighbor ratted on us because that was the kind of person she was. And basically my dad kicked her out of the house for that. It was just a very like traumatizing experience around my period. But overall, the physical symptoms of me being on my period were not highly acknowledgeable. Sorry, my dog is knocking on the door. It kind of made me jump. I was like, oh my god, my parents can hear me talking about this. So there's just like now I've lost my train of thought. The physical symptoms of my period have never been anything like painful. I felt like it was just something that would always come. I would get my period, I would take care of it. I was an athlete, so it was very regular. I felt like it was very light. And the only thing that I really remember about it at that time was just my PMS symptoms, which would be my lower back kind of tightening, my hips tightening, and then my breasts at the time getting really sore. As I got older and I actually had the choice to choose tampons or pads, I hated both. Tampons made me feel uncomfortable. Like, I didn't bleed heavy enough that it felt like I was forcing cotton in my vagina. Sorry, there's someone walking by. In my vagina. And then my vagina would reject that. So it didn't really feel right to me. And then other solutions were a cup, and that didn't sound good to me. And so I made a conscious choice to once a month lose a pair of underwear. I would cut my losses, take my chances, then bleed really heavy for one day, and then I would just go to the bathroom and wipe. And if I lost a pair of underwear, then that would be fine. Like, I didn't really care, didn't really like underwear anyways, so didn't really wear it if I wasn't on my period. I also don't remember really bleeding through any clothes, and if I did, I really don't remember it being a shameful energy experience. I mean, I might have done it in high school, but I had an extra pair of pants, and it was just a thing that happened. And I remember watching that on movies and watching girls get so shamed for it. I was like, fuck that, like, this is a natural process, y'all can go fuck yourselves. But it didn't really happen to me often. It really didn't happen to me. And I used to wear a lot of black soccer shorts, so that kind of helped me from like those major accidents, if I had those. Like, reminiscing, trying to think, maybe it was, and I just blocked it out. So as I got older, in my late teens, going to college, my PMS symptoms kind of got a little bit more extreme. Like, I had to wear 2 sports bras, and that's when I noticed I was about to start my period with my physical symptoms. During warm-up, my body felt a little bit more sluggish. I would always have a little bit more of a bounce, an awareness to the bounce of my breast, and I can't help but laugh, but I just knew that was like, it was going to be time. And then, I just took care of it, handled it, and then it went away. And then there was the week after, and I felt like a fucking goddess. And so that was kind of my relationship with my menstrual cycle to begin. I did go on birth control for a very brief time to help regulate my period, but the more I thought about it, my period was already regulated, and the birth control made me feel a little bit more off balance, and I already felt emotionally off balance sometimes, and it didn't make sense why I would put something in my body that it was foreign, and it was unnatural to me. And so I stopped. I didn't have sex on like a regular basis like that. I had a boyfriend, but we were really super safe, and so it didn't really affect me in any way. Being off of it was a lot more healthier for me, and I was also curious on whether or not birth control would make it harder for me in the future to get pregnant. So with that as an option, I felt more comfortable with being off of it and just being more mindful of how to track my period. So I started noticing throughout the month how my period would regulate my mood and my energy and my physicality. And at that time, with the younger mindset of the world, I just felt as if my entire life was revolved around birthing, creating a child, and I thought that was really lame. And I honestly thought having a child was like a setback, and how it would ruin your body, and how it was just like this awful experience. And I never wanted to get pregnant, and I always wanted to be really fit and really active and super strong and super hot, and I took care of my body. And so it was really important for me to track. And then the more I kind of like understood the flow of a period, like the ovulation cycle, and then the actual menstrual cycle, and I kind of felt more comfortable with even more comfortable with being off of birth control. So I have changed my mindset about all about that. But my relationship with my menstrual cycle really shifted when I started diving deeper into my spirituality. I saw myself as a smaller microcosmic reflection of the grander, and I was able to start to track and see like this connection of my period to the moon cycle, and I thought that was really beautiful. And like I kind of noticed that sometimes I was with my full moon. I noticed how I didn't have a lot of education within my early adult years. Like all throughout college, it wasn't much of a important issue to me. It was just something I had to deal with. I knew that if my period didn't come, it would be a level of concern, and that getting pregnant wasn't one of the things on my list ever. I also felt like my body knew a lot more than I would like consciously admit to with my like partners, my sexual partners, because I never had a pregnancy scare, and I always thought that the people I was with weren't the ones. They weren't my partner. They weren't good enough to fertilize my eggs. And I also thought that was kind of like shallow, but thank God it was probably true. And so I thought I couldn't get pregnant, and so that was also like this conflicting like thought pattern in my mind. I started getting UTIs in college. I felt like they were a physical manifestation of a lot of energetic weight that I was not physically voicing out, emotion that I was not able to like express, that was expressed through one of the most painful things. I remember one of them being in college and waking up for a 2-day at 6 a.m. I could not move. We had so many sprints. Literally my bladder was falling out of my uterus. It was so excruciating. My last excruciating UTI was last February 2020, and that one was I remember trying to sit through it and ride through the symptoms, and being on the toilet and feeling it shoot up through the base of my spine all the way through my crown, and my whole soul exploding from wanting to leave my body but not being able to because of that pain being internal. And there's nothing you can do about it. I would never wish that on anyone. So having these chronic UTIs brought up a lot of concern as somebody who finds energy reality, and everything that shows up physically is just an opportunity to see what you're holding on to energetically. For a brief time, I worked as a pharmaceutical technician at Walgreens, and also saw the collective in a microcosmic scale again, like how this one pharmacy had so much medication on covering up symptoms that were correlated with your womb, like all of these UTIs, these yeast infections, these bladder control. Like why if so many women are dealing with the same symptoms, like how is this issue not being, the root of this issue not being resolved but just covered up? And then it was just one store in one city, and so I thought about like the infinity of this on a global scale, like how many Walgreens, how many CVS's, how many grocery stores, so on and so forth, how many medications are there for this, but not enough education on the energy of it, like where does this come from? So my experience with this multiple times kind of made me question the collective experience on infinite amount of time. So what is that energy? And I thought a lot about it, and I had a lot of theories about it, and I saw it reflected to me, and I know that my reality is a reflection of my internal reality. So it gave me an opportunity to kind of sit down and deal with it. So my last major UTI, irritable bladder syndrome, two separate things but very similar symptoms. So I thought I was getting a lot of UTIs, but my doctor diagnosed me with irritable bladder syndrome. But it kind of, I think that mind shift of it not being a UTI but more of bladder irritation gave me that power to like sit with the symptoms, because I knew that it was just information. So pain is information, and I wanted to understand what this information was trying to educate me on. And one of the reasons I really wanted to dive deeper into uncovering the root was a fear of the scars being left on my womb. Like there's no way that there wasn't any damage done because of how intense that pain was. It was unforgettable. It's unforgettable. Hold on, time. I want to see if this is still flowing. Perfect. Okay. I have a lot. I feel like I keep clearing a lot of storage in my phone, but my phone doesn't sometimes work like that. So having these UTIs and my fear of possibly not having a child if I didn't look at it gave me the strength that I needed to work through it. I started to kind of track when these episodes would come through. I thought it was with my partners, like particular partners, and a lot of issues came up about feeling when I was sexually active with my partner. I think that a lot of the times I got UTIs was what I felt. I didn't feel in it. I wasn't in the moment. I felt like I was being used. I felt like it was to please the other person. I felt a lot of like guilt or shame, and I felt like I didn't feel good. I just felt weighed down. And I think those emotions got caught because I couldn't voice it. I didn't have the empowerment to let my partner know, or like be honest with myself that that wasn't what I wanted, and I wasn't comfortable enough with saying it. So the energy got stuck, and I got pissed, and I feel like that pissed off energy manifested into intense UTIs. And I also feel like my soul knew a lot, and that was the only way that my soul could communicate with me, because of how much I would ignore the other messages. So for me to be grounded with a UTI with that partner and question that person's integrity and my actual like connection with them was the only way my soul, my higher self, would be able to come and communicate or like come through to me. And so that was a lot of like what I thought was happening with my first couple of partners, and I just realized I was really sensitive to other people's energy, and then how I felt like sex wasn't very sacred sometimes with people, and how it was just this means to an end, and it didn't feel sacred. It wasn't a sacred union. It was just like a quick fix, like I want to get off, and it made me feel dirty. And so that was something that I also experienced, and I didn't like that, and I wanted my womb to feel cared for, loved, supported. I wanted to feel that way. I wanted my body to feel that way, and that brought up a lot of womb work for me. And so womb work, I started this last year, February, I finally had enough of these UTIs. I mean, like, I thought I was kind of like taking care of it and like eating healthy and being mindful of the food and being mindful of how I received my partner. And a very intimate conversation that I feel like if you're watching, you're ready for. If you're not listening to it, I don't want to be heard. So I felt like I was being really mindful with my partner, and there was just like my last, in February 2020, that UTI was my soul coming through and telling me to listen and set strong boundaries, and to be incredibly confident with my boundaries, and to not ever doubt myself when I felt like someone was doing wrong. And it was a very big lesson for me. And so I went through it, I understood it, I received it, I downloaded the message loud and clear. And in May, I was turning 28, I decided to do a stand-up paddleboard teacher training, and I got a UTI again, or an irritable bladder syndrome. We were out in the heat, it was incredibly hot, I felt really dehydrated, and I noticed right away, I was drinking, I think I was drinking matcha tea, and that kind of set me off and balanced me right in the root. And it was like, oh, fuck, not again. And I was like, why is this happening? Like, I thought I dealt with this. I thought I had like let the energy go. And so my boyfriend Kevin and I, hold on, perfect. My boyfriend Kevin and I, we held a womb healing ceremony for me, and he did a lot of energy work. And through that ceremony, I realized that a lot of my womb work didn't necessarily have to do with my own individual experience, but more of my ancestral karmic experience on my mom's side and on my dad's side. And I felt like this deep, I was living with my sister on my mom's side at this time, and I felt this deep understanding that was kind of what was coming through as well, was that I had work to do for not just me, but for my mom and my grandma and my sister, and then also on my dad's side with my mom, and just like all this deep seated energetic karma for my divine feminine in my ancestral line. And I took the opportunity, and I sat with it. I sat with the pain. I found natural ways to heal, to find homeostasis and hormonal balance for my root chakra. So I was doing a lot of root work, and at the time in June, I had talked to my aunt on my dad's side, and she was coming down to visit me, and she had mentioned that she was bringing down Amazon medicine. So she was bringing combo and rape, and I had never done any of that at that time. And so she let me know what rape was, and she let me know what combo was, and explained it really deeply. And I went on a dieta, and when she came down, it was just like another layer to the womb work that we did together. And she was like my shaman, and she really helped coach me through some childhood trauma and validated my inner child. And I felt like seen, and there was a part of me that I hadn't like acknowledged, that inner child, the pain of my inner child that felt unsafe. I didn't really understand that part of me until she showed me and how to acknowledge and let it go and validate it. And I was going through a lot of family healing with my sister and my mom at that time as well. And so to have that as an opportunity to work through and heal with my sister and my mom, and see where they were when I was younger and to see where they are now, and understand so much from a higher perspective, it was very healing for me. And I felt like this burden off my shoulder, this weight of unnecessary responsibility that I put on myself ever since I was a child for my little sister, and this amount of guilt and shame I had with my mother. It was like just space opening up for me in my root chakra and in my sacral chakra, giving me more clear intention on how I wanted to create my reality. And so I did a lot of work through with my aunt. I also took some shrooms earlier last year around March, and a lot of my psychedelic experiences always make me feel as if I have this pressure on my belly, like this energy that is wanting to be birthed but is stuck. Like there's something trying to manifest or come through and be birthed that I just don't, I have a major blockage. And that was kind of what that March shroom trip felt like to me. Like there was something I wanted to release and let go of, but I just couldn't get it out. I couldn't figure out what that was. And then I went to visit my other sister on my dad's side, the one I earlier talked about, who was 15 and she got kicked out of the house for using tampons. It was her birthday in August, and we went to celebrate her. And during that same week, I was with her. We did ayahuasca, and my aunt, once again, was the facilitator for that. She was our shaman, and we sat with our family's ancestors. We sat for our family, for those who weren't there. It was very, like, once again, ancestral healing. I sat with my mom and my sister energetically when I was there, and I understood a lot about the importance of the trauma that my family went through in order for me to have the space to consciously create within. It was all purposeful and all had meaning, and it all gave me the opportunity to show up here. And even though that things didn't make sense at the time for my ancestors who had dealt with a lot of physical abuse and trauma, they all knew that it would be better for the next generation, or it would be better. There was always hope, and so I felt as if that was a really big part in my womb healing. For me, on a cellular level, I was able to go into the DNA of like my ancestors and hold space in this form as Tiffany, who I feel is a reflection of like fun, energetic, like some spunk, and I got to be the light for the times that were really dark in my mother's side and in my father's side. And that was really powerful. I meditated on light in places I felt really uncomfortable within, like different experiences outside of this time, but connected through space. So as we did that, after the ayahuasca trip, we had a few more things, a little bit more clearing, a lot of letting go, a lot more purging, and then I got pregnant. So I felt like that entire process of me lifting and letting go of energy within my womb, within my family, within my mind, within my heart, created space for this soul to rest and manifest and be birthed, and that it would be free of karmic ties and free from trauma and have an opportunity to create reality without the burdens of what had happened in the past. It would be a fresh start, a new energy, a new reality. And all the work that I did was for my baby girl. And so that is what I felt called to speak on with my womb work, and how important it is to honor the health of your womb and understand your womb and sync to your moon. Even though if you're not trying to have a child, you are a physical manifestation of the spiritual, and everything you do is a direct correlation to your mind, your thoughts, how you speak, how you feel. And regardless if you want to acknowledge it or not, the pains and diseases in your body are all a reflection of the pain and diseases within the mind, the heart. And so using that knowledge and wisdom to help you create a better reality. Your root chakra and your sacral chakra in particular, is the energy wheel of creation. And as feminine, you have, as energetic beings, we have feminine and masculine energy. But for us to be and have a portal of creation, that means your magic is so much more potent. And the more aware you are of that potency, it gives you that you should feel empowered to choose and create your own reality, regardless of everything that's trying to hold you back from it. And so you take your power back, you understand, you flow with your creation, you manifest with your creation, you sync with your moon cycle, you sync with your menstrual cycle. You know when you're feeling tired, you honor that. You know when to push through, you honor that. You know when you're bleeding, you're purging, you're letting go, it's a ritual, you honor that. The week after, you feel even more aligned, you honor that. You honor every single cycle, because that cycle is just a reflection of the cycles of reality. We are nature. We are connected to the earth. Everything has a season. You have your season. You will see that once you're connected to yourself, you can connect to everything on a grander scale, and it becomes more of this magical spiritual experience versus something that you're forced to do and have to do. And so regardless if you're having a baby or you don't want to have a baby, tune into your womb, do the work. You will be thankful for it. Your mom, 7 generations back, will be thankful for it, and 7 generations forward will be thankful for it. They say a woman who is empowered will bring more abundance to their reality. An empowered divine feminine empowers divine masculine. So empower yourself, honor your natural gifts, honor the spiritual connection you have to the ether and to the physical. And that is my womb work talk. Once again, my name is Tiffany. If this video is super long, I appreciate that you waited and listened all the way through the end. I will continue giving out lots of womb work tidbits as a newbie mom or pregnant mama. I would love to hear your comments and feedback if you are currently working on your womb or looking for resources on how you can heal or even get into it a little bit deeper, a little bit more digestible, relatable. Just let me know how I can support. You can leave comments on the video, emojis on how you feel today, on how your period, what was your first period like, and I would love to connect more with you. So once again, thank you so much for tuning in. Namaste.